And now, the second in a continuing series of Smothers Brothers Minority Reports. Here to ask tonight's question is Dick Smothers.
On our first minority report, we asked our guests how they felt about the way the government spends their tax dollar. And tonight, based upon the fact that over 200,000 young Americans were drafted last year, our question is simply this. What do you think about the draft system? Okay, our first guest tonight is once again Mr. Kopowski. We're here tonight, Mr. Kopowski, to ask your opinion of the American draft.
Oh, it's beautiful, your American draft. I kiss your American draft. Much better here than in Russia.
Does everyone have to serve in the Russian army?
Oh, no, it's very easy to evade the draft in Russia.
Oh.
You see, in Russia, everything is political. First, you get your political notice. Uncle Kosygin wants you. Then, if you don't want him, first, you go to Soviet Health and Welfare for your political health certificate. If you cannot obtain this, then you go to Politburo for political exemption. If you fail to get that, then you go to Supreme Politburo for political discharge. If you can't get any of those things, then you go to American Embassy for political asylum.
He's a wonderful American. Our next gentleman is Mr. Hernandez. One of the proposals for correcting the unfairness of the draft has been to create some sort of a lottery system.
Oh. You mean like they do in Mexico where everybody takes a chance and buys a ticket and the winning number is going to get drafted?
That's right.
That's a very good idea, Mr. Smothers, except for one thing.
What?
Who's going to buy a ticket?
Thank you very much.
Anytime, senor.
Next we have a lady from New York, and her name is Mrs. Klein. Did you ever have any personal experience with the draft?
Oh, yes. The draft hit our neighborhood very hard. Our neighbor's son, Tony Salvatore down the street, Mrs. Acropolo's boy, Nicky, my own son, Saul, they all received their draft notices, and it's so sweet. Once a week, we mothers gather in each other's houses to read our son's mail, and it comes from all over. Winnipeg, Toronto, Vancouver,
Thank you very much, Mrs. Klein.
Don't mention it.
Hey, we'll see you next week.
All right, if you don't get drafted.
Don't worry, I'm over age. Now, from San Francisco, Mr. Harris. Hello, Mr. Harris.
Hello.
Today's minority report deals with the question, do you think the draft laws are fair in this country?
Now, that's a very interesting question. I believe that the draft laws show absolutely no racial discrimination whatsoever. In fact, I believe that the black man has an even better opportunity to be drafted than the white man. And the equality does not stop there. Why, here at home, sometimes we're asked to ride at the back of the bus. But when we're called into the armed services, we're moved immediately to the front. Now, that is more than equal opportunity.
Tell me, do you have any suggestions on how the draft laws might be improved?
Well, now, I believe that when you're fighting for a real direct cause, in other words, when the actual freedom of Americans is directly placed in jeopardy, I don't think you need the draft laws.
Well, well, thank you very much.
After all, now, we didn't need them in Watts in 65, Chicago in 66, Newark and Detroit in 67,
I understand. Very interesting. Our last gentleman hails from County, California, and his name is Mr. Davis. Now, sir, how do you feel about the present draft laws?
Gracious me, I'm glad you asked me that. With two kids of my own, I really have to face this problem. Golly, it's kind of like a two-headed coin, isn't it? My country on the one side, my family on the other. But I sat down and I talked with my kids for a long while. And we agreed that serving your country should come before anything. Why, it's a boy's duty to serve in the armed forces when he's called.
That's, well, are you boys in the service now?
I happen to have girls. But that doesn't change my opinion, not one little bit. Well, I remember when I was drafted, I couldn't wait to get to the front and tangle with the enemy. I wanted to see action and fight for my country. But when you can type 80 words a minute, you go where you need it the most.
Tell me, sir, how do you feel about the draft laws?
The draft laws, well, I feel about the draft the same way I feel about birth control. I like it. It's a very good thing.
Yeah, thank you very much.
It's a good thing for your Negroes, your Jews,
Yeah,
your
yeah,
Polacks,
I'm sorry.
all your undesirables.
Well, this brings to a close our second Smothers Brothers Minority Report. And until next time, we'd like to wish each and every one of our minorities a good week. Thank you.